everyone. Bonjour. Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, vous?
Bien, merci. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been just a great day that we've had today, very informative for, I think, all of us. I'm joined here by Minister Piwniuk, the Minister for Transportation Infrastructure, as well as Wab Kinew, Leader of the Opposition, and we have some of Doyle's staff here to answer any technical questions that you may have. But I just wanted to say that, first of all, thanks to our helicopter pilot, Corey, who was fantastic today. He got us down south, up north, and back here safely today. So just want to thank he and his team for that. So we started off at 10 o'clock this morning. We went down south along Highway 75 in the Red River, down south of Morris and around Emerson area. We had a tour of the flooding around in those communities, St. Adolphe, St. Agath, Morris, Emerson, and everything in between. And I think what we can see certainly is that it's starting to recede. The river is starting to recede down in the Emerson area. And I think we're looking at cresting in the St. Adolphe area today. So it was good to see how those ring dikes are really helping in those communities down south of us and really saving some of those communities. But you can see that there's a lot of water on those farmlands and everything else down in that area. So there's going to be, obviously more discussions after this with respect to, some of the challenges that those farmers are going to be facing as well. And those who have been flooded, out of their homes and had to evacuate as well. There's a number of those people as well. Then we went up north to Peguis First Nation. We toured around there. It's certainly since I was there last a couple of weeks ago, it's receded significantly. I think it's down almost 2 meters apparently from before. But again, the technical folks here will be able to answer those questions as well. But then we came back down Arborg area. Arborg is on the Icelandic River, which was quite swollen, and there was overland flooding up in that area as well. So we were able to have a look at that, and then down Gimli, and then we came down just north of Lockport, where, which is, of course, is where the floodway enters the Red River again. So we saw what it looks like there, and then back here today. So I think it was a very informative tour for all of us, and we're hoping that. There's not yet another Colorado low coming our way, but we can't control those things, but we can continue to work with our municipalities. I just want to thank all of our staff, all of the municipalities, all of the volunteers that have been helping out with sandbagging and everything for those people who have been affected in all of these areas. We do know that there has also been some flooding west of us as well now. And I know Minister Piwniuk will probably talk a little bit more about that. So I think what I will do is just pass it over to Minister Piwniuk to say a few words, and then he can introduce his staff, and we'll hear from Wab Kinew as well. So thanks, everyone, for being here today.
Well, thanks, Premier. Yeah, we had the opportunity to actually fly over the Red River Valley, looking at different communities that we actually seen, and including Morris, St. Adolphe, St. Agath, it was Emerson. We actually all went to places when it came to Altona, the south of Altona, and so we're looking at different communities where we've been really affected by the floods, and looking at the infrastructure, making sure that the infrastructure that we invested over the years have been really paid off, and we're looking at also opportunities of looking at other opportunities to look at new investments when it comes to flood mitigation, and that's what we're going to be looking at and assessing during these flood times, and making sure that any communities, and doing assessments for every community that's out there right now, to make sure that if there's anything else we can help, how we can improve infrastructure for flooding, and just when it comes to our EMO. And I'll just have my staff come up here, Johanno, and have Chris Prop, who actually came with us on the tour. Unfortunately, we had another individual who wanted to come, was Russ Anerchuk, and of course he's actually in the northwest corner in Swan River area, assessing some of the damage that's happening in Highway 10. There's been very devastation areas there. We got about 2 bridges north of Mafeking and 1 bridge south of Mafeking that's has been cut off the community. So it's important that We have rest up there to make sure that people are evacuated. If there's any evacuations, making sure our structures are safe to drive on. And so that's what's happening right now today. So this is what we're looking at, and eventually myself and my team will be out in the Swan River area possibly early this week and assessing all the damages there. And so I'll pass it on to anybody else who has any questions, or maybe Wab Kinew, if you want to talk.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Minister. I'd like to begin by thanking Premier Stefanson and Minister Piwniuk and their staff for the invitation today. I think during flooding and during an emergency situation, it's important for Manitobans to see their elected officials working together for the common interest of our province. You know, we saw a lot of water today. There's water all over the province, all over the Interlake, the Red River Valley. And I just wanted to take a moment to send my thoughts and support to people who are suffering right now. We saw homes, we saw communities impacted. We've seen, the communities that have been evacuated in some cases, others that look like islands in the midst of a lake, which normally would be the Red River. I also wanted to thank all the flood fighters. We saw tremendous evidence today of those who've been responding as volunteers, as workers, who've been putting up sandbags, who've been putting up tiger tubes, who've been pumping water. Tremendous effort, and so we salute you all who've been flood fighting this flood season. And really, the thing that stands out to me today is that while Manitobans know that we have flood season so regularly in the province, we also know that we're going to continue having to make these investments into the future. The level of water that we see out there is beyond what an individual or what a community can respond to on their own. It really does need to be governments who step in, the government of Manitoba, government of Canada, America, etc. And so, of course, as we join together to respond to the situation, it's very important that we, I think, acknowledge that we saw proof today that the historic investments have really helped over the years. And of course, we see that there are going to be future needs for investments as well. So once again, thank you to Premier Stefanson and to her team, and appreciate the opportunity to join you today.
En français, s'il vous plaît, on est en direct à RD en ce moment.
OK. Puis en français. Alors aujourd'hui, premièrement, je remercie le Premier ministre Heather Stefanson pour m'inviter pour participer aujourd'hui. Aujourd'hui, nous avons vu beaucoup de communautés dans le sud du Manitoba, beaucoup de communautés francophones avec plein d'inondations. Et puis, je remercie tous qui ont lutté contre les inondations cet printemps. Et puis aussi, nous avons vu beaucoup d'évidence qu'il y a aussi plein de monde qui ont dû quitter leur maison et quitter chez eux à cause des inondations. Pour moi, pour les autres qui étaient là aujourd'hui, c'est très clair que oui, nous avons fait des investissements jusqu'à maintenant, mais il y a encore besoin de plus d'investissements dans l'avenir. Alors, j'espère qu'on pourrait travailler ensemble comme une équipe de Manitobains et Manitobaines pour appuyer notre province qui fait face à ces inondations. Merci beaucoup.
So, Premier, you talked about the farmers a bit earlier. What can we do for those farmers? Because we understand that the water won't recede for a while. So, what the government can do for them? Because it might be a crisis for them this summer.
Yeah, and I might let Minister Piwniuk take most of that, but I want to say that for all of those who have been negatively impacted, we will be with you every step of the way through this. These are very, very difficult times for farmers, for families who are going through this, and we'll continue to help them through various programs. And certainly, Minister Piwniuk can talk about DFA and other programs that are available for those who have been negatively impacted as a result of this in various municipalities and farmland and so on. And we're hoping that we can get some decent weather over the next little while to ensure that, more weather like this would be very good and quickly so that farmers can get into their fields. So, but again, we'll be working very closely with them.
Yeah, when it comes to the farmers, like this, like in 1997, there was a flood actually lasted until June, and with a lot of times when it comes to Manitoba crop insurance, when it comes to the unseeded acres, farmers have up to about June 20th. They're depending on the crop. Sometimes the crops can be a little bit later, depending on the when it comes to germination and the actual harvest of the crop. That's what we're going to be working with the Agriculture Department too. My colleague Derek Johnson, when it comes to unseeded acres, working with Manitoba Crop Insurance, that's going to be a factor. But we're just hoping that this water, the weather cooperates with us, that we don't get any more precipitation, that we can actually have this water drain from the farmers' fields. And the Red River Valley is a good opportunity to have that water drain, so that farmers possibly can get back on the fields, hopefully sometime in early June.
Mayor Pritchard was pretty clear that houses are elevated now. We have dike, rain dike.
That's right.
But the road, there's dozens of roads that are still impacted by the water, and he has now the government to step up, because we want to prevent that. Is there a way that we can maybe think about elevate also the roads so we can prevent the flooding like that?
Well, that's one thing that when I have been up in the helicopter, I remember just talking to one of my staff members, Chris here, was talking about Morris. For instance, there's a Highway 23 that just leads just outside of Morris. You know, here's an opportunity to maybe raise that, at least that highway. When we're rebuilding a lot of that Highway 23 anyways, right through to Highway 10 towards Brandon. And the thing is opportunities to assess all this and making sure that if we actually invest in our infrastructure like highways, that we do more culverts to allow the water to go under, but also have the opportunity for the town of Morris to be able to get out both on the east side of the town and on the west side, but also making sure that the diking system that our highway goes over, so that we don't have to close the ring dike on the south side of Morris, so that we can use the 246 that allows the the trucking industry to go straight down Highway 75 with a minor detour of 246.
It's one thing to know about the extent of the flooding. Were you surprised with what you saw? Getting the sort of bird's eye view.
Yeah, it gives you a better because I actually represent Turtle Mountain, which is the Pembina Valley goes through most of it. And just to have an idea of how the Pembina Valley can cause a lot of problems when it comes to, I thought once when it went outside the Canadian border into the U.S., that was not our problem anymore. But no, it actually it straddles the U.S.-Canada border, and a lot of times there's actually the water at Gretna, for instance, they had to dike where the border crossing was, to make sure that the water didn't come into the community from the Pembina Valley river system. So it's going to be an eye-opener to educate where the water's coming from, and also what's really impacting Morris and the St. Adolphe, and where the crest is actually higher than 2009, is because of the water that's coming from the west, from the escarpment through the Morris River. It's also when it comes to the LaSalle River, that all comes back into the Red River, and that gives a big impact. So all the tributaries do impact, like the Rat River, the Russo River. That's all those rivers that could come and affect the area of especially around Morris.
Do we know how many people are evacuated right now? Do you have an update?
Well, I'll get Johanna, he knows exact numbers, so I'll pass it on to him.
Thank you, Minister. Good afternoon, everyone. We have, as of right now, we have 446 municipal evacuees and just under 2,000 First Nation evacuees. We've been at that 2,500 figure total for a few days now. Hopefully it goes down as the weather improves.
Premier, what do you make of the fact that COVID deaths are on the rise and that there have been 50% more deaths this year than during the same period at the start of 2021?
Can we finish off with
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, last question.
Well, that's something that again, when we looked at all the communities, especially after the floods, we're going to assess with our department, especially when it comes to the infrastructure department, but also with the EMO side of things too. We are going to have to work with our federal counterparts, making sure that they lead on the opportunities to look at what we can do, because we have to look at the whole region of the Peguis region. That includes when it comes to Fisher River First Nation community too, along with some of the municipalities in the region. Because no matter what you do, you have to make sure that everybody, when it comes to anything with floods, you work with the whole region so that you don't cause impact to some other community, that we work all together, and we have to collaborate with our engineers and making sure that we do the study and then we actually work in consultation with our First Nation communities and working with the federal government. They definitely have to lead on this project, and we would be happy to work with them, our department, with our engineers, and to make solutions. And just like we're going to do with Lake St. Martin Channel, we've been working with our federal counterparts to make sure that that opportunity comes through, because a lot of First Nation communities were impacted by the 2011 floods around the Lake Manitoba First Nation communities.
What's the situation on the west side now? I know we have some problems.
Yeah, the west side we had another Colorado low that actually affected more the western side, more into Saskatchewan, into especially around the Swan River, like the Duck Mountains and the Porcupine Mountains right now has been really impacted. They had about 3 inches of rain, and they had additional, like probably 5 inches probably in the higher elevations of the Duck Mountains and the Porcupine. I have a colleague who has been, sending me information, some pictures, some videos that have been impacted. We've had a number of roads in the Duck Mountain Provincial Park washed out with culverts. Highway 10 around Mafeking, two bridges north of Mafeking and one bridge south of Mafeking has been impacted, where the community's landlocked. So we got to make sure that we're there for the community of Mafeking.
So do we expect the water level to raise over there?
Well, I think it was more. It's not so much the water, because again, it's higher elevations. It's not like a flood zone like we have in the Red River Valley or Peguis. These are high elevations. It's flash flooding that's happened with the amount of snow. There's still a snow to be melted, and there's also a significant amount of rain that happened on Friday. So it's been really impacting the community.
When you were talking about federal support, I just want to be clear. Were you talking about Peguis in particular, or the flooding as a general?
Well, it's more for the Peguis First Nation, because the fact is it's Indigenous Services Canada is the one that actually helps out First Nation communities in Manitoba, but also Red Cross to do any evacuations. But our team, Juhano and his team, have been there to be able to assist anything that we can do as a province, and we've actually sent about 25 pumps to Peguis, and we'll continue to help with the community as much as we can. And I'm not, Juhano, if you have anything else you want to add about Peguis, or?
No, I think that covers it. Really
Okay, good. And so we're going to have opportunities to work with the federal, but again, our DFA program, the Disaster Assistance Financial Assistance Program with the federal government, will have to partner with them to make sure that the program that they're actually going to be helping us when it comes to infrastructure losses, not only for the province of Manitoba, but also for when it comes to individuals, businesses that have been impacted by flood, any damages. So the program, and that includes even many cattle farmers lost calves during the snowstorms, and so that's also part of the DFA program that we actually announced last Monday. Well, the thing is, I guess that's going to be depending on the weather too. Like hopefully we'll have, this is it for the Colorado lows. We just have a little bit of rain here and there, but that's going to take some time. Like I think Peguis, for instance, like the water's receded, but there's going to be a lot of cleaning up there too. That I know our team will be working with Indigenous Services Canada and also with the Red Cross to make sure that these individuals can get back to their communities. But when it comes to the Red River, even the mayor from Morris said it's going to be early, sometime in June, when the water recedes, that people can get back to their homes. And one thing about the Red River Valley, a lot of these homes were built on a higher elevation since when it came to 97 flood in 2009. Property had to be built to certain levels that were surpassed the 1997 situation. So that it's just basically it's accessibility into those communities and to their properties. It's not so much the damage of property. Yeah.
That's my question.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
What do you make of the fact that Premier, can we answer about the COVID?
Sure, I think we'll just finish this up first and just say thanks to everyone. I'm happy to talk to you though in a moment. So thanks, Doyle.
Okay, thanks.
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 Yeah,